The thump-thump-thump of helicopter blades was the only sound in the sky until the flashing red and blue lights came tearing down my dirt road. I was standing by the corral, eyes locked on that rescue bird. My neighbor Sam lay inside my barn, pinned under a collapsed beam from last night's storm. He'd been drifting in and out of consciousness for nearly an hour, and the rescue team said the fastest way to get him out was by chopper. But just as the pilot lined up for landing, a black SUV skidded across my driveway, blocking the open field. Four men jumped out, wearing dark uniforms with bright yellow HOA security patches on the sleeves. They weren't our town's police. And we sure as heck didn't have an HOA anywhere near my ranch. One of them, tall, crew-cut, eyes like cold steel, stepped forward, hand raised to the helicopter overhead. He barked into a radio, landing zone compromised. This is private property under HOA jurisdiction. I froze. What jurisdiction? What HOA? The pilot hovered uncertainly, wind whipping dust into my face. I waved frantically, shouting, "Ignore them. You've got clearance. Land." But the crew-cut man pointed something, looked like a flare gun, up at the chopper. He didn't fire, but the message was clear: land, and there'll be trouble. My stomach knotted. Sam didn't have much time. I marched toward them. "Get off my land. You're not real cops." The leader smirked. "We have authority here. Your rescue violates neighborhood safety codes." Neighborhood safety codes? Out here, where the nearest neighbor is 5 miles away. My pulse pounded in my ears. Then one of them spotted the chopper circling back. "Block the field. No landings," he ordered. The SUV lurched forward into the grass, tires ripping deep trenches in my property. The helicopter peeled away toward the horizon. My heart sank. "Who sent you?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. The leader leaned in close. "Let's just say the people who run things around here don't like you bending the rules." Before I could answer, another engine roared in the distance. Not a farm truck, not a rescue rig. It was the deep, commanding growl of tactical vehicles. Dust rose over the ridge like an oncoming storm. The fake cops glanced at each other. For the first time, their confidence cracked. I had a feeling my day was about to get even wilder. The tactical convoy burst over the ridge in a plume of dust. 3 matte black armored trucks, their sirens off but lights blazing. The low rumble made the ground tremble beneath my boots. The fake HOA cops stiffened, hands inching toward the holsters at their belts. They weren't carrying real firearms, looked like heavy-duty tasers, but they held them like they wanted trouble. The lead SWAT truck skidded to a stop just short of the field. Out stepped Commander Briggs, a barrel-chested man with a voice that could cut through hurricane winds. I'd seen him twice before, once during a cattle theft bust and once at a county fair pie-eating contest. Neither time was like this. He took in the scene with one sweeping glance: the blocked landing zone, the black SUV in my field, the helicopter now a distant speck. "Identify yourselves," Briggs barked. "Badges. Now." Crewcut stepped forward, lips curling into a smug grin. "We're with HOA Enforcement Division. This ranch is in violation of code section." "Stop," Briggs's tone could have frozen lava. "There is no HOA jurisdiction here. This is state land. You're impersonating law enforcement. Drop the gear." The silence was sharp enough to cut hay. The tallest of the fake cops whispered something into his radio. Briggs caught it and snapped his fingers. 2 SWAT officers flanked him instantly, rifles at the ready. Not pointed, but positioned like they could be in half a heartbeat. "You're interfering with an active emergency response," Briggs continued. "Step away from the vehicle and get on the ground." The leader's smirk wavered. He glanced at his crew, then back at the approaching SWAT team. "We have orders," he said, but his voice didn't carry the same weight. I stepped in, my frustration boiling over. Orders from who? You nearly cost Sam his life. For a second, his eyes flicked toward me, calculating, assessing, before hardening again. You wouldn't understand. Try me, I shot back. Before he could answer, Briggs's voice thundered again. Final warning. That's when things snapped. The driver of the HOA SUV gunned the engine, trying to swing around the SWAT trucks, but the second armored vehicle cut him off with surgical precision, boxing him in. Two more SWAT officers yanked open the SUV doors, pulling the driver out in one swift motion. He went down in the dirt, shouting protests about property rights and board authority, as if those words meant anything here. The leader's hand twitched toward his taser. Briggs's eyes narrowed. Don't. The tension was thick as a thunderstorm. Somewhere behind us, I heard another faint sound, the helicopter returning. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The faint thump of rotor blades grew louder, rolling across the ranch like a heartbeat. The rescue chopper was coming back, this time lower, determined. Briggs glanced skyward, then back at his team. Secure the scene. Make sure that field's clear. But the fake HOA cops weren't done. The leader's jaw tightened, eyes flicking between the helicopter and his crew. He gave a barely noticeable nod. The man nearest the SUV lunged, popping the rear hatch. My gut twisted when I saw what he pulled out. Not a gun, but a drone, sleek and black, with a blinking strobe on its nose. Drone in the air, a SWAT officer shouted as the man tossed it upward. Its propellers whirred to life, sending it streaking toward the helicopter's path. The pilot spotted it instantly, banking away to avoid a collision. My heart dropped. Every second Sam was stuck in that barn was a second closer to disaster. Briggs, they're stalling on purpose. I yelled. Copy that, he growled. Take the drone down. A SWAT sniper stepped from behind the armored truck, rifle braced against his shoulder. One crack split the air, clean, precise, and the drone spiraled into the dirt, snapping apart like dry twigs. The leader's face flushed red. You just destroyed HOA property, he shouted. You just obstructed a medevac, Briggs shot back. That's a felony. The remaining fake cops tensed, shifting their weight as though ready to bolt. Briggs's men closed in, boots crunching in the grass, weapons low but steady. Then the leader made his move. He shoved one officer aside, sprinting toward the fence line. I didn't even think, just stepped in his path. He tried to barrel through me, but I held my ground. We locked eyes for a split second. His gaze was cold, almost empty, but behind it, something flickered. Fear. Briggs was on him in 2 strides, pinning him to the ground with practiced force. You're done, he said flatly. The helicopter swooped in again, this time unhindered. Its skids kissed the grass just beyond the corral. 2 paramedics jumped out, sprinting toward the barn. I could feel my chest finally loosen. Sam was seconds from getting the help he needed. But as the paramedics disappeared inside, the leader spoke from the dirt, voice low but sharp. You think this ends here? You've got no idea who you're up against. Briggs didn't even look at him. We'll see. Somewhere deep inside, I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The paramedics rushed Sam onto a stretcher, their voices clipped and urgent. I followed them out of the barn, the helicopter's rotors sending a hot, dusty wind across my face. Briggs gave me a nod. Sam would be in the air within seconds. The fake HOA cops sat cuffed in a neat row against the SWAT truck, their yellow HOA security patches looking more like cheap costume pieces now. But their leader still held that infuriating smirk, like he knew something the rest of US didn't. Briggs crouched in front of him. Who sent you? Silence. You're looking at obstruction of an emergency response, impersonating law enforcement, trespassing, and about 6 other charges. Talk now, or you'll be explaining this to a judge in shackles. The leader finally tilted his head, eyes locked on mine. "Ask your neighbor," he said quietly. "The one with the big house on the hill." My mind flashed instantly to Harold Brixley, wealthy developer, owner of half the empty lots in the county, and a man with a history of trying to buy my ranch. I'd told him no more times than I could count. Briggs caught my reaction. "You know who he's talking about?" "Yeah," I muttered. "And if he's behind this, it's not the first time he's tried something shady." The leader chuckled under his breath. "He doesn't take no very well." Two SWAT officers exchanged glances, then one stepped forward. "Commander, you'll want to see this." He held up a small folder pulled from the SUV's glove compartment. Inside were printed maps of my ranch, notes about access points, landing zones, and, most chilling, owner compliance strategies. "Looks like this wasn't just about today," Briggs said grimly. "This was planned." The leader leaned back against the truck, still smiling. "Brixley's patient," he said. "And he's got more people on his payroll than you think." A crackle came over Briggs's radio. "Rescue team airborne. Patient stable but critical." Relief washed through me, but it was quickly replaced by a cold knot in my stomach. Briggs stood, turning to me. "We'll run this up the chain. If your neighbor's tied to this, we'll find proof." I nodded, but my eyes stayed on the leader. His smirk had faded into something else, calm certainty. It was as if he knew the next move had already been set in motion. The helicopter disappeared over the hills, but the echo of its blade seemed to linger in the air, mixing with the unease that now settled over the ranch. I had the feeling the real fight was just beginning. The next morning, the ranch was quiet. Too quiet. Sam was in the hospital, hanging on but safe. I should have been relieved. Instead, my gut told me this wasn't over. Briggs showed up just after sunrise, a folder tucked under his arm. "We ran the plates on that SUV," he said. "Registered to a shell company. Guess who owns it?" "Brixley," I said flatly. Briggs nodded. "And we've got enough to bring him in for questioning. But given who he's connected to, we're doing this clean and loud." An hour later, 3 SWAT trucks and 2 sheriff cruisers rolled up the winding road to Brixley's hilltop mansion. The place looked like a fortress, stone walls, iron gates, and more cameras than a casino. Brixley was waiting at the top of the drive, dressed in a silk robe, sipping coffee like it was just another Tuesday. "Commander Briggs," he called, smiling thinly. "To what do I owe this unannounced visit?" "You know why we're here," Briggs said, stepping forward. "We have witnesses, physical evidence, and 4 of your hired men in custody. Impersonating law enforcement, obstructing a medevac. Want me to keep going?" Brixley's smile didn't waver. "I don't know what those men told you, but I had nothing to do with any of it." I stepped in. "Then how do you explain detailed maps of my ranch in their car? Or the fact that you've been trying to buy my land for years?" His eyes flickered, just for a second, but enough to tell me I'd hit the mark. "I'm a businessman," he said smoothly. "If people acted inappropriately, they acted without my consent." "Funny," Briggs said. "Because we've also got payment records linking that shell company to your personal account." The smile finally cracked. "You can't prove intent." Briggs gave a short nod. 2 SWAT officers moved in, cuffing him before he could step back. "We'll let the DA decide that." As they led him toward the armored truck, Brixley looked at me over his shoulder. "This isn't over, rancher. The land will be mine." I held his gaze. "Not while I'm breathing." Back at the ranch, I stood by the corral as the sun dipped low, painting the hills gold. Sam would recover. The fake cops would face charges, and Brixley would finally answer for his games. The wind carried the faintest sound of helicopter blades in the distance, a reminder of the day everything could have gone wrong. But this time, the sky was clear. For now, the ranch was safe, and I was ready for whatever came next. If you've been hooked by this wild showdown, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next unbelievable story. Drop a like if you think justice was served, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done if fake cops tried to block a rescue on your land?